On December 5th, 1848, President James Knox Polk will announce in his address to Congress that gold had been found in California. Now, newspapers on the East Coast of the United States were publishing ever since the summer of 1848 about gold found on the American River, but these were now made legitimate with the president's announcement. And this would lead to what would become one of the largest migrations in human history, known as the California Gold Rush. But the gold rush in that history begins right here where I'm at Sutter's Fort State Historic Park here in Sacramento, California. Now, gold had been found on January 24th, 1848 by James Marshall at Sutter's Mill, about 40 miles east of here, along the South Fork of the American River in the Coloma Valley. That's the name given by the Yalasumni Nisenan village that lived in the region we know today as Coloma. Marshall was overseeing the construction of a sawmill because there was a demand for lumber here, not only at Sutter's Fort, but to build a town, a proposed town called Sutterville, which was going to be southwest of here, near where William Land Park is today in Sacramento. But Marshall finds gold January 24th, 1848. 4 days later, he brings that gold here to John Sutter's office here in the central building of Sutter's Fort. They test whether or not that gold was real. They find out that it was. They try to keep it secret. Word starts to get out in mid-February. You have the publication by Sam Brannan of gold in his California Star newspaper in the spring of 1848. In his April 1st, 1848 edition, he had 2,000 copies made. He paid a man by the name of Nathaniel Hawk to travel east, handing out newspapers to everybody on the way. And eventually these newspapers reach the East Coast, and you have President Polk making that announcement of gold in California. Now, the gold that Marshall had found was given over to the United States military, coupled with some of the maps of the gold region that Lieutenant William Tecumseh Sherman of the United States Topographical Corps will create. Those were sent to the War Department. That would aid in Polk's announcement. Marshall's gold that he had found, some of it is on display at the Smithsonian Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. And so this will lead to what we know of as the California Gold Rush. It takes many months for people to hear of the word, and it takes about 6 months for people to get here to California. And so that's why they are the 49ers and not the 1848ers or anything like that. However, you have people from all over the world coming to California during the gold rush. It's not just people from the United States, not just people from Europe. You have people coming from South America. Actually, some of those coming in 1848 are from Chile. They are the true 48ers that are coming from outside of North America. You have people coming from Africa, Australia, from Asia. A lot of those coming from Asia are coming from China, and a large portion of that from the Guangdong province in China. It was actually quicker to get to California from the Guangdong province than it was from New York by ship. The world rushed in. But we think about the gold rush being something that was something of an adventure. People coming to California, looking for riches, looking for a better way of life. There's a lot of push and pull factors that come into play during the gold rush. You have a large economic depression in the United States at this time. This is a reason why a lot of people were traveling west by wagon even before the gold rush. You have a depression elsewhere. You have a cholera pandemic in the United States at this time. You have people heading west looking for better health. And with all this world rushing in, it means something different for those that are already here, the indigenous native population. The world rushes in, and California quickly becomes a state. It becomes a state on September 9th, 1850. Some of those first laws passed by the early California state government were direct attacks on Native people, direct attacks on where they could be, where they could live. You have a forced indentured servitude for Native people that were deemed if they didn't have a job or anything like that. And even before statehood, some of the first people that are actually panning and mining for gold were Native people. And that whole idea for panning for gold doesn't last long either. A lot of that placer gold is gone within the first year. And you have a lot of mining techniques that become a lot more destructive. We have California state parks that are examples of all these different things. Now you have where Sutter's Mill is, Marshall Gold Discovery State Park. Highly recommend visiting there. They have a reconstruction of the sawmill is there as well. After placer mining, you start to see hard rock mining. That's where you have Empire Mines State Park is a good example to see that. But even more destructive than hard rock mining, you have hydraulic mining, using water cannons, blasting away hillsides looking for gold veins, and using mercury in the extraction of that gold. And Malakoff Diggins State Park is a good example of that. Where you have the remains of the North Bloomfield Mining Company and the destruction that was caused. A lot of hydraulic mining ends with the Sawyer decision in 1884. So when we think about the gold rush being this happy event and all these people coming to California for riches and panning for gold, it's a lot more than that. So think about the bigger picture and think about all the different perspectives of that history as well when you study about the gold rush.